What's going on, everybody? Happy spooky season. This is the Countdown to the Geeks. My name is Ted, and I got a great interview for you guys. One of the stars of the upcoming digital release of VHS Halloween from the fun size segment, Lawson Greyson. Lawson, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
This has been such a wild ride. VHS is a franchise that is near and dear to my heart because not only am I a big horror fan, but I'm also a huge found footage fan. And this franchise is dedicated to sort of found footage and POV, point of view type framing and subjects. And this one is a special edition of VHS because it's been given the throne of Halloween, and you and the cast and the crew must have took that with like a badge of honor and cared for it because it's kind of a big deal. Tell us about not only how you got involved with VHS, but sort of like what was the atmosphere like, the passion around the projects while filming.
Yeah, it was definitely an element very scary, but such an honor to do a Halloween VHS because so many fans of horror are already such a big fan of VHS, and then on top of it, such a big fan of Halloween movies. So it was a lot of pressure, but in a very exciting and kind of exhilarating way. I was lucky enough to audition. Originally, I auditioned with our casting director, Jeff, for the
Mm,
segment of Coochie Coochie Coo. So
okay.
that was the first one I went in for. I made it pretty far in the auditioning process. We got to what we call chemistry reads, which is where you're reading with another actor that they think they're going to pair you up with, if you were to go on and film it. So funny enough, my chemistry read was with Jenna Hogan, who is in Fun Size
Oh,
for
okay.
Coochie Coochie Coo. Yeah, so we made it all the way
Wow.
through. We met with Anna, who was the director of that one. She was awesome. We did a couple reads for it of our audition. It went really well. And I remember getting out of the callback and being like, her and I are best friends. Like I believed our chemistry. And so long story short, didn't get that one. So I remember it was like probably a week or so later. And usually if you don't hear anything in a week, you didn't get it. So didn't hear anything. And then I got the other audition for Fun Size from the casting director again. And I was like, oh, this one's cool. Like this one also seems I really liked the script on Fun Size. I loved that there were some comedy elements and it just seemed like a really fun one. And so, same thing, sent in my audition, didn't really think anything of it, got the chemistry read. But this chemistry read was with the guy who plays my fiance in the segment, which ended up being Riley Nottingham, who had I
Gotcha.
had previously worked with, which was such a blessing. Like
Oh,
I got
wow.
his room. Yeah, it was in a film that's not out yet, but he kind of had a smaller role, and so we got to know each other, and he's very sweet. And so when I got into the audition room, I was so excited because anytime you know someone, it like eases your nerves a little bit. So I was like, and just so excited. And I think that definitely helped us out in the chemistry reads of making it that we were a believable couple. And so then once I did that with him, we were at our fitting for the costumes and everything. And that's when Jenna walked in. And
Mm.
I was like, "Oh, you got it too." So it apparently people really believed in our chemistry of friendship because we didn't even do a second chemistry read together. So I almost think Jeff might have slipped Casper Kelly our chemistry read that we did for Kuchi Kuchi Koo. I
Mm.
still don't have verification if that happened, but that's
Gotcha,
my
gotcha.
hypothesis. Yeah. So once I met the whole cast, it just made me that much more excited because I felt like we were already such fast friends and I knew some people already, obviously. And then meeting Casper, I was like, oh, whoa. Especially knowing some of the stuff he had already done with like Adult Swim.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, it was real nerve wracking, but really exciting because I love like comedy and horror together. I feel like it's such an underrated genre.
Oh, sure.
I, yeah, it's so fun. So it was, really exciting, and that set was just like magic. I remember I like walked onto it for the first time, and it was funny because the warehouse we were filming at, that the
Mhm.
majority of the segment takes place in, I had actually just been to on a different shoot the day before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was an empty warehouse, nothing in it. So I remember like I walked in and I was like, "Whoa, I'm in a candy factory." this is crazy. Like our production design team was so impressive. Like every single person on the crew and the cast were just amazing and did such an amazing job at their given task. It was pretty mind blowing. Like there wasn't one person who dropped the ball, which just made it so exciting, especially because VHS isn't like the highest budgeted film. Like we're on a pretty modest budget. So
Right,
the
right.
things that they're able to throw together is really impressive.
It is impressive, and I tend to like when a segment in VHS leans either very scary or very campy. The
Yes.
ones that sort of kind of play in both, I have issues. I tend to not get too invested in. Um, but this one really leans into the campiness. So even from the beginning of it, you kind of figure out like, oh, this is going to be a fun one. No pun
Yes.
intended, because it is titled Fun Size.
Fun
And
size.
I'm gonna keep from sharing any specific details because even if I told people what this one was about, they wouldn't believe me. So I love that this one leans into the campiness, and it is
Yes.
probably the most absurd story out of like all the segments, which I also enjoy that aspect of it. Literally, the first time I saw it with a live audience in our theater, it was a riot. I mean, people were just laughing their heads off, and I loved it. And the death scenes were so clever. Some death scenes that have never been done in the history of horror films. I'm willing to bet my money on that for sure.
Hmm.
And I did have some technical questions for you because
Yes.
this is VHS, so most of the scenes are filmed from a point of view of a character. During your segment, how much of the responsibility of the camera and the framing is on you, or is there always a camera operator holding the camera from your, say, point of view?
Hmm. So for this one, it was actually, to my understanding, based on what a lot of our cast and crew said, or mainly the crew, because they had been on a lot of the other segments and past years as well,
Hmm.
is our segment was really special because we have, as you knew, two different people with cameras,
Right,
which most of the time you're dealing with like the
probably
single
one. Yeah.
perspective. Yeah, only one. So it's much easier than to have a cameraman or operator on the camera. But because they wanted to be able to use as much of the footage as possible, it really was Riley and I filming,
No
I would say
way!
about
Wow,
80% of the time. So
that's
that whole
so
time,
cool.
it was so cool, and I felt like I got a master class in cinematography because our amazing DP or director of photography would come up to me and he'd be like, "Okay, hey Lawson, so when this scene's happening, I want you to like get a little closer to him if you can because it's an intense moment." Um, so it was really cool, and especially since my camera had the light on it, it really drew attention. So it was just so cool, especially as someone who loves all aspects of filmmaking. I really felt like I got such a camera, like so many lessons in that. The really cool thing is that so if you see like just from watching it, we have the GoPros on our head.
Right, right.
Well, they obviously wanted some, because GoPros aren't necessarily the best quality, some better quality footage. So during those takes is we had these giant helmets on with these camera rigs on the front, which was really wild and really
Sure.
cool. They were very heavy.
Oh man, I bet.
Riley and I were being quite wimps. I think after like the fourth or fifth take with them, we're like, "Hey, can we have a break? This hurts." But our camera team was amazing. But yeah, it was the first time I ever had a director of photography come up to me and go, "So hey, how strong is your neck?"
Mm.
What? Why? So it was a special occasion that we actually did the majority of the filming.
Yeah, no, and it was really difficult for me to tell because, like you mentioned, you're getting two POV shots in some
Yes.
scenes, and so I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." I'm wondering if they're doing multiple takes with the camera operator, or if they're just using the footage from your helmets or just your point of view. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that was one of the things I was pondering was how they're pulling this off, and I'm glad you told me that, and that kind of makes it for me even more challenging and fascinating that it's a closed set, but there's probably less room for the crew to be in because you guys want the shots from both angles. And so for
Yeah.
me, it's just like more more creative ways for people to obtain the shots and the footage that they want to. And I always love hearing about the obstacles and the hoops that people are willing to kind of jump through to make things
Yeah.
work. And so that's fascinating. And so congratulations.
Thank
Number
you.
one, you
It
did a
was
great job.
thank you. There was a couple times where I was like, wow, like this is really cool. I could maybe do this. And they were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I was like, you're right, right. I'm just an actor. You're correct.
Slow
I'm
down, slow
getting
down.
my
Hang on
head's
now.
getting too big. Yeah, they're like, whoa, ma'am. Another really cool thing that I think was really interesting was with without giving to anything really away,
Mm,
with our villain would kind of just appear sometimes,
mhm,
and with that element is with the found footage it was all a lot in one take.
mhm.
So and anytime you have anyone in a mask anything, it's really hard for the actor to see.
Right, right.
Michael, who plays Fun Size, is a saint. He had that mask on. It's brutally hot, like boiling. He's covered head to toe.
Oh,
But
I
there was a
bet.
couple times where we had to have like he had to have like someone to walk him in onto set really quickly. And while we're turned this way, I had to like watch in my peripheral for whoever was walking him in to sprint out. So that way then I could turn my head to see what the camera sees. But there was a lot of elements like that where I like turned too fast and you just saw a random crew running and they're like, nope, again, try again.
Again, reset,
Yeah,
reset.
reset.
So this segment was not only written but also directed by
Casper Kelly.
Casper Kelly.
Yeah,
Um, Tell us about his style because I don't think he's done a lot of directing. He's done a lot of writing. I'm
yeah,
not sure how much directing he's done in the past, but what's his style like? What are the things that he's asking you guys to do? Because again, this is also a very unique situation where he's really not only asking you to act, but also asking you to get the shots and like make
right.
sure you're hitting your marks and kind of this is whole choreography. That's another component to all this stuff. And you yourself are having to be responsible for so many different facets of production now. So what are the
Yeah.
type of things that Casper is doing to not only support you, but the collaboration and what you guys are discussing on the set?
Yeah, Casper was just like kind of a dream director to work with. He had so much trust in every department, like with what they were doing. He had such a clear vision, and I think that really helped. But then he really would just let you do your thing. You know, he like gave you such a free environment to really feel and experiment. And there was a lot of times where he was like, improv, go, do the thing. And I think a
Wow.
lot of, yeah, really funny moments came out of that. Probably especially Jenna, I think, had some of the funniest improv lines. There was a couple times I ruined takes because I started laughing because she is so funny. And so there was a couple times where I was like, I'm sorry guys, we gotta take it back. I screwed it up. So I think that just was such a testament to the loving environment that Casper made, especially on these days where you're like working in just such strenuous conditions and a lot of different elements and relying so heavily on your actors to like kind of figure it out, because you are wearing so many hats in just
Mm,
one small scene or whatever it was. So yeah, I think he also did such a good job of blending horror and comedy. Because it's funny because a lot of people were like, "Well, was it funny on set? Like, what was that environment?" And it was really scary on set. Like everything felt so real. All of the sets felt so real because you're not dealing with, because it's found footage. You're not dealing with like a camera person in your face or sound like a boom
that's
mic
true.
right above
Yeah.
you. So it really made the environment feel so real. At the very end, when we're in those really small quarters, that's all real. Like that
I
was
was gonna
fully,
ask about that. Yep.
yeah. So I can go into more detail if you want to ask specific questions, but it just made the environment so scary. So then watching it back and feeling the audience laugh so much, it was really cool because in the environment itself, I was like, this is terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask because there is one scene, I'm not gonna say what
Mhm.
happens, I'm not gonna say anything else about it, where you are in a very tight space, and
Yes.
my first thought is, "Wow, I wonder if this is her or I wonder if this is a camera operator. Because if this is her, I really hope she's not, claustrophobic because she would be panicking at this point, and so, what was going through your head while you're in this confined space? having to operate a camera, having to
Mhm.
act at all the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, that was actually the very first day of shooting. That was like our
Oh,
very
no
first
way.
scene that we shot. Yeah, and I think once the audience goes and watches it, they'll know what we're talking about.
Sure.
And it was so crazy because Riley and I actually made a joke as we were, which I bless our director's heart. I thought we were going to kill him. We both walked up and we're like, "Hey, Casper, so we're both really claustrophobic,"
No
and
way.
he like went white and was like, and we're like,
That's not
we're
good.
kidding, don't fire us." We promise we're joking. And we both were kind of like, oh, maybe we shouldn't. But he ended up being such a good sport and finding it hilarious. He's like, okay, good, we're
Mm,
good. But yeah, every single part of that set was practical, even
wow.
the floor moving.
Yeah.
That was our actual production designer, like physically pulling it. It was so cool.
Wow.
But yeah, no, that was me in there because our director of photography and our whole camera department was actually quite tall. So I
Mm,
don't even think they would have fit because
wow.
I could barely kind of like look up enough to where my camera was catching everything. So it was kind of one of those things where once we got it was like getting the shot was quite difficult because they were like, okay, Lawson, can you tilt your head up a little bit more? Wait, no, too much. Down. Right. Okay, right there. Now you have to act from right there. And so that was quite interesting and very difficult, especially because it's a very emotional scene. And then, not to mention it, they're also timing it with our visual effects department that's behind Riley. So then they were having to time it all and calling all these things out. Lawson, head up. Okay, now head down so we can see your foot. Now over here. Now look down. It was crazy, and I'm so glad it was the first day before we were all like tired and delirious. But it was really, really cool, and it made it feel so real because there was nothing in there other than
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just, yeah, close proximity acting, and you're
yeah,
operating it, and like you mentioned, there's so many moving parts to just that one scene. It's gotta
yeah,
be everybody, working in unison, and you guys
yeah,
pulled it off. It was a great moment.
yeah,
Trying to figure out what else I can say without spoiling anything. Well, talk to us about what it means to you, and what it meant to either Casper or the rest of the crew to be a part of VHS. It's like a rite of passage. It's a badge of honor. Like, now
yeah,
that you've contributed to this franchise, and to this legacy
mhm.
of the VHS franchise. Talk to us about what that means to you, and kind of what it meant to the rest of the crew.
Yeah. I think we were so lucky because a lot of our crew had already been on VHS before,
Okay.
in one capacity or another, whether it was that segment or not that segment, but like a previous segment within the Halloween film or previous VHSs. So it felt like that we had a lot of veterans. That was just such a cool experience to kind of hear all their stories and what VHS is, and especially to like the fans. I think that was kind of the craziest part because like once everything was because like I knew VHS had a fan base. I didn't realize how committed they are, and it was kind of the first time I had ever been a part of something like that. So it was kind of like one of those things where we got through filming, we did all of it, and then, like, once the announcement was made and then the cast list came out, I started seeing so many opinions come flooding in. So it was kind of
Oh,
like one of those
man.
things of like, oh, please tell me it's going to be received well. Like, we were all like praying that we did a good job because it's one thing while you're filming and you're going through the trenches of it all. And then afterwards, you're kind of on that high of filming. But then after the fact, you're like, oh, people are actually going to see this. Okay. And especially, it's actually very funny. My boyfriend and his best friend since childhood are probably two of the biggest VHS fans ever.
No
So
way.
the phone call I got from his friend when I booked it was like, I love you. Don't mess this up. And I was like, okay.
No pressure
He's like, I love
whatsoever.
you. I'm so proud of you. Make it good. And I was like,
Yeah.
got it. Okay, I can do that. So I think there was like a lot of added pressure in that way, but I think it also prepared me, hopefully adequately, that maybe made me put in so much effort of like I can't mess this up. So I
Well,
think
you
it
did
was just,
amazing.
oh, thank
Congrats.
you. It meant a lot to all of us is I guess what I'm trying to say.
For sure, for sure. And it's an achievement. Not to mention, like you've already said, like, your segment was so unique in the fact that so much of the responsibility of the camera work was put on the actors, which has not been done either very often in this franchise
Yeah.
or not at all. I mean, it really doesn't
Yeah.
happen that often with any other genre of film to begin with.
No,
You know what
I've
I mean?
never.
So
Yeah, no one's ever asked me to touch a camera before. That's for sure. They're like, "You're an actor." Mark. Okay, got it. Don't let me touch the expensive equipment.
it sounds like you've seen it already. Where was your first time seeing it, and just describe that experience of watching it with it sounds like a live audience was your
Yeah.
first time.
I got to see it at Beyond Fest, which was here in LA. It
Very cool.
premiered a couple days ago. Yeah, it was my first time seeing anything I've done with a live audience like that, especially with one of such a fan base. Like I had seen some
Mm.
shorts I had done in festivals, but nothing to this caliber. And the best part I think was that I got to see it with the whole cast. Like the whole cast and our
Yay.
significant others were all
That's
there.
great.
It was really cool. I was very nervous though. I remember sitting there and like I knew when our segment was. So we're like watching it and everyone seems to really be enjoying it. And we went through all of them and then we came to fun size and I was like, okay, it's okay. Whatever the reaction is, it's an okay reaction. Just trying to kind of like mentally temper my
There you go.
expectations.
There you go. Yeah.
Um and then once we started watching it, I remember we got our first kind of like eruption of laughter. And I'm pretty sure it was on the line of when Riley and I were like, we're dressed up as found footage horror film people. And the reaction to that, I was like, oh, we might have done something. Like people might actually find this really funny. And so I think we were so lucky because we were in a theater of a bunch of fans and people who love VHS. So the reaction was so warm and the amount of laughter was just so reassuring. And I think it maybe set the standard for all of my film premieres a little too high because now I'm going to be like, why aren't you guys laughing and clapping? Like no one's hollering. So
Yeah.
it was a once in a lifetime experience for sure.
I'm glad you got to do that. So I knew they had all the directors at Fantastic Fest. So I
Mhm.
saw it a week ago at Fantastic Fest, and they had all the directors in attendance, and I suppose a lot of them are writers as well, but not too many of the cast that I noticed. And so
Yeah.
I was wondering if you guys had a chance to see it there. But similar experience, Fantastic Fest is one of those film festivals where the weirder the better, and it gets the most reaction from the crowd, it gets the biggest applauses, it gets the most laughs. And so, yeah, this one really kind of found its place at Fantastic Fest. They usually premiere a lot of VHS movies at Fantastic Fest. It's kind of
Yeah.
a annual tradition now that they premiere a VHS new project at over here in Austin, Texas. So yeah, similar response. Lots of laughs, just uproarious reactions, great times had by all. So, and this one I think is probably the funniest one out of all of them. Like I mentioned, this one leans into the comedy more than the other ones do, and so I think that really helped in that regard. That you're not really fighting between genres or emotions. You're just really just having fun with it from the get go. All right, we have a few minutes left. I'm gonna just quickly do a short synopsis because I want to tease this up for everybody. So the fun size segment is about a group of friends going out trick or treating on Halloween. Arguably too old, but we're not gonna debate that right now. They end up at this house, and there's a bucket of candy, bowl of candy, in front on the porch, and it says take one only. That's the sign that's there. And you know how kids do. There's video cameras of this happening all the time. They usually take more than one. Well, in this scenario or this situation, when you take more than one, something really bad happens. What happens after that, I'm not going to say, but you will not believe me if I told you what happens. And that's when the chaos and the absurdity ensues. And I really want everybody to figure out what happens from that point forward. If I told you guys, it would ruin all the surprises. And there's nothing better than a surprise with the VHS franchise. So this premieres in less than 24 hours. You must be thrilled and excited that the world's going to get a chance to see it now. What are your last messages for the fans out there regarding the release of VHS Halloween?
Hmm. I just hope that it'll become like a Halloween staple. You know, everyone has those movies when this time comes around, and I would love for the VHS fans to hopefully find that this will be one of their traditions, maybe for this time of year.
I can easily see that happening, and I really hope it does. Lawson, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. You had I had two favorite segments in this one. Yours was definitely one of them, and I can't remember what the other one was called. If I can find it in a second, I'll
Is
I'll
it
look it up.
was it the very last one?
No, it was the one in Spain. Is it?
Oh, that's so funny. I can't remember the name of it either. That one was also amazing.
Yes, just because it really came out of nowhere. I think that's the one called Ut Supra Sic
Yes, correct.
Infra. That's why I
Hmm.
couldn't remember it.
Yes,
Oh,
and
yeah,
that's
no, that one too, that just went to, some places where I did not anticipate, and I think the best VHS segments are the ones where you really can't predict where it's going. Like, I just love the
yes,
roller coaster ride that these stories take us on.
I agree.
So, thank you again for, taking the time to speak with me. Congrats to you, the cast who worked really hard on this one, and the entire crew for pulling off this segment and all the other ones. Congrats on the premiere and the opening, which is happening shortly. And
Mhm.
wish you guys the best. Can't wait to see what the response is from the rest of the fans.
Me too. And thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.